Hi, and welcome. Welcome to Business Unusual. I am Liz Whitehead, co-mastermind at Diversity Masterminds. I'm here with Heather Cox.
Hi, I'm Heather Cox, live from Big Bear this time.
Out in the woods. And we're here with our guest, Philip DeVliegher from Disability Inn. Hi, Philip.
Hi. Liz,
I'm so impressed you got his name right, Liz.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can pronounce it.
Philip and I go way back, so it's great. And we're going to get into doing Business Unusual. I want to talk about the conference that you recently had and how awesome it was. But before we do that, one of the things we like to talk about with our business owners or our business owner advocates is what other crises have you been through that prepared you or that were not at all like this time? But some lessons that you've learned before that prepared you for this.
Wow. So, granted, we've had economic downturns in the past that we've all gone through and survived. But this is unprecedented. And this is not just an economic downturn. This is a public health crisis that we really need to get our arms around before we can even look at the economic impact of all of this. It's far-reaching. It's challenging for a lot of people, and perhaps probably the most unsettling thing about this crisis is really the uncertainty around it. We don't necessarily know what that roadmap ahead looks like. So we're kind of doing it as we go. And for many, that's unsettling. If you're, trying to plan, your business strategy for the next year or 2 years or 5 years, you don't know what that looks like. So you just have to do the best that you can in mapping that out and being able to adjust to all of the hurdles that may come our way.
Yeah,
absolutely.
True. And I should back up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I think you're going to say exactly what I was about to say. So go ahead.
Tell us a little bit about Disability Inn and what you do.
Certainly. So Disability Inn is a nonprofit organization. We're here to support businesses to become more disability inclusive. So we want to create a level playing field for all those people out there that have a disability. And that includes our businesses that are owned by people with disabilities. So my role at Disability Inn is to support those certified businesses. We are the third-party certifying organization for disability-owned businesses, and we call them DOBEs, by the way. So my role is to support them and to connect them with our corporate partners. So that's a little bit about what we do, but Disability Inn as an organization works across the entire business enterprise. So we work in the workforce space. We work with graduating seniors from college to be placed in internships or full-time positions. We work with accessibility challenges that businesses have, but our real focus is on helping businesses become more disability inclusive.
It's actually one of the coolest things. So when I talk about the different organizations out there, one of my favorite things to mention is that Disability Inn is especially unique because it covers both sides of the house, right? It covers both the D&I side and the supplier diversity side, which is not the norm across the diversity organizations. And one of the reasons that it's one of my favorite organizations, but I love Disability Inn because it really does bring people together on both sides of the house, which you don't always see so often.
You're right, Heather. And, disability has been kind of that, I guess, forgotten D in diversity to some extent. Yep. And we're elevating that to the point where people recognize that, disability reaches across all categories, whether you're a woman, whether you're a minority, whether you're LGBT, or a service veteran. 1 in 5 people in the United States have a disability. And around 70% of those disabilities are non-apparent. You don't even—
Or invisible disabilities, right?
See them. So we're here to support that community and the businesses that support them.
Awesome.
So
Heather,
the conference that you guys just had, right? We had a great conference. The disability went virtual this year, and it was probably done better than most of the virtual conferences we've been a part of so far recently, because it's new for everybody. It's new territory, right? So did you feel like the population, the demographic that's involved in disability is even more affected by what's going on right now? Or do you think they're equally as affected? How do you think that affects the demographic that disability in certifies and works with?
Certainly, it has impacted our community. I think probably more so than many others. Just thinking about accessibility needs, health needs, mental health needs of
Right.
our community is challenging right now. So that was the primary reason that we moved to a virtual platform. Was to ensure that our stakeholders, our corporate partners, our business owners, our advocates were safe, and the platform was accessible. So we certainly had more attendees than we ever had in the past. We had over 3,000 attendees.
Wow.
From 20 different countries. So being virtual really allowed us to reach far and wide into the disability community and bring people to the table where they may not have had that opportunity in the past. So in my opinion, it was a really successful conference. And we hope that the attendees walked away having that same feeling, that they really got something out of it. We had, I think, over 80 different sessions.
Wow.
It was just a great learning experience. I mean, we certainly missed the in-person contact and engagement with people, but this was really the next best thing.
sure. Well, I think Heather is like single-handedly elevating people with disabilities because she asks everybody. They're like,
Oh yeah, you've been there. She's
eligible?
been there at a bar when I was like, so, got any disabilities?
She has, and Heather, your relationship with us is invaluable. We love, certainly Liz and you, but we love the fact that you really aren't afraid to have that conversation with people, because that's one of the biggest challenges, is first educating people on what disability is.
Mm-hmm.
That 70% of disabilities that are non-apparent, people don't know necessarily about that. And they don't necessarily consider themselves having a disability if they do have one of those conditions, right? So if I'm diabetic, I may not think that I have a disability, but it certainly qualifies as a disability. So that's part of that challenge. And Heather is so great about communicating that to other suppliers and business owners around, you might be eligible for this, and be proud of it. Stand up and call it out that you have a disability. I mean, I have just recently acquired a hearing aid. So I have severe hearing loss in my left ear. And, I have no qualms about putting it out there that I have a hearing aid. And it is pretty cool too. It's Bluetooth, and it's, it
there's a Bluetooth. Those are the coolest ones.
Wild things. So,
yeah.
So anyway, so that's our challenge, is kind of getting the word out and saying, this is what a disability is, and you qualify, and be proud of it and leverage it.
Yeah. No, I know. Heather
we've
celebrates. Whenever someone's like, I have a disability, and she's like, awesome.
Well, you know what it is? I think that disability in is, and I think we've talked about this stuff, is where NGLCC was maybe like 10 years ago, right? 12 years ago, when people weren't always so comfortable coming out as part of the LGBT community. And now someone's like, yeah, and?
Yeah.
And so I think that disability, it's so true, right? And I have entrepreneurs who, like, I just talked to somebody the other day, and he's missing a gland, one of the glands in your body, whatever. And he said, but that's not really a disability. I said, what happens if you don't take your medicine? He's like, well, I'll die. I'm like, yeah. And so he said, but I don't really consider it. And I said, because you're an entrepreneur. I had an entrepreneur who was missing an arm, and she said to me, I never really considered myself disabled. I'm like, that's why you're a successful entrepreneur, because you don't use it as,
right.
And it's not like, well, I can't because I'm doing this, right? Think about Jessica Cox, who has no arms. She's a pilot. She does black belt karate. I think, like, the reason that entrepreneurs are successful is not because of their disability. It's in spite of it. It's because of the attitude and the way they think about things. And so I think that that's part of the education process, right? Is having people understand that they're not taking an opportunity away from somebody who has a visible disability. It's just that as an advocate, as part, like, so, you know, my other company, my company is certified through Disability In. And one of the reasons I was so excited when I realized we were eligible is because I felt like we could take away some of that taboo and be an advocate within our own community, you know, as someone with an invisible disability, to help those with a more visible disability, to take away some of that taboo. And so it's some of that education that you're talking about that is so important to the community as a whole. But you guys are rocking and rolling Disability In. Any news, I'm like, oh, Disability In again. Oh, there they go again, rocking and rolling out there.
Thank you, Heather, because, you know, you're a big part of that. You're helping to spread the word and get businesses to become certified through Disability In, and we're seeing it every day. The applications come through, and typically, you know, those suppliers tell us how they heard about us, and there's not a day that goes by that we don't see your name, Heather Cox, as, you know, she's the person who told me about Disability In. So thank you, because we're in this together.
Yeah, if you're gonna have a big fan, it should be one that talks a lot, like Heather. So.
All right, so what are our normal questions, Liz? I took us off track as usual.
No, this is good. Well, I think what I'd love to hear about too, because we're talking about people with disabilities and their entrepreneurship. So I'd love to hear how some of the people in your network have pivoted during COVID-19.
It's a great question, Liz, because, you know, in the disability community, a lot of people don't realize, but it's so true that people with disabilities have this innate ability to adapt, to come up with solutions very quickly, because every day they're faced with a new challenge, in whether that's navigating their environment or navigating technology. Because of their disability, it could be more difficult. So some of our suppliers really right away kind of stepped up, and of course, PPE was like the big thing, right? Immediately was the need for PPE, and suppliers that weren't necessarily outfitted to provide that immediately kind of went into gear to help provide that protective equipment. But, you know, we have a business owner that owns a captioning company. And as we all kind of move to virtual platforms like the one we're on now, like Zoom, she was able to kind of help provide education and services to our corporate members around captioning and what that means and looks like. Because not all captioning is created equal, so I found out. So from a security standpoint, to just a navigational standpoint, she was able to kind of pivot to not necessarily providing captioning, but educating the corporate partners on how to use it and leverage it. So, I mean, I could go on and on about the different ways that our DOBEs kind of moved in a different direction. But, you know, we only have so much time.
I know, it's true. That's a great example, though. What's the name of her company? Because we'll put it in the notes.
It's called Caption First.
Okay, great.
She's awesome. She's been a long time certified DOBE. She's also certified WeBank, WBE, and she's terrific. Her name is Patricia Graves.
Awesome.
And she was a finalist at the pitch competition, right?
She was a finalist at the pitch competition.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You know, and speaking of the pitch competition, Heather, you did an outstanding job, and I must commend Heather and her colleagues because they were the first DOBEs to join alliances and come up with a pitch and business solution together. So we've never had, you know, other than a single DOBE pitch their business. This was a joint venture. And I think a lot of our corporate partners really look at our suppliers and say, you know, you may not have the capability to provide this product or service, you know, solely alone, but have you explored those opportunities to work with other diverse businesses? And Heather was the prime example of doing that. So I again commend you, Heather.
I know, she's a great role model.
I love this interview. Wow.
I know. This is like Heather's Lifetime Achievement Award.
Too. But no, that's how Liz and I came together, right? Is because we knew there was a need to educate people how to use their certification. And I knew I had some of the expertise. I didn't have it all. But Liz had, you know, the other parts, and we overlap a little bit, but it's just so great to have different, and also we see things differently a lot of times, and you know, just like our personalities are different. So that's why that joint venture is so important for suppliers, is because whether it be the other disability owned companies or other WBEs or other diverse businesses you're serving or the corporations, it's good to have different perspectives. That's the point of diversity, right? Is to have those different perspectives.
Absolutely. You're right. And I think that's what our corporate partners are looking for is
right.
You know, innovation. And if that innovation comes through a joint venture or an alliance somehow, the better.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's so good.
So one of the things you mentioned too is that Disability In really puts the inclusivity in diversity and inclusion. And so we like to ask people about the Black Lives Matter movement, which also was so powerful during this time when we're all dealing with COVID-19. So what are some of the things that Disability In or the business owners did to show solidarity with that movement?
Another great question and a really important issue today. You know, we've joined forces with really all of our stakeholders, our Black-owned businesses, our corporate partners, our strategic alliances like the National Business Inclusion Consortium, to really demonstrate our solidarity and stand up against racism. And, you know, at our conference last week, we had a number of sessions on really the intersectionality of race and disability, and how as a community, as a diverse community, we can stand up and support our Black-owned businesses. And it's really important. So we're having really thoughtful conversations around this. We're not jumping to any solution without bringing all of those people that are, you know, part of this challenge to the table to have those really important discussions around race and, you know, providing meaningful support to them, whatever they need. So we're listening to what they need and we're there to help them. And I think at this point, that's all that we can do, right? Is to be part of a larger community to help all of our Black-owned businesses and diverse businesses. So we're, you know, we know how it feels to some degree to be discriminated against as people with disabilities. We understand it. We understand how the LGBTQ community feels. We were along with them during the gay rights movement and the civil rights movement. We were part of it. Like I said before, disability kind of reaches across all of those categories. So we are that community in to a degree, right? So it's just, we feel that it's important to be able to listen to what the needs are and how we can help and provide that support.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. So we're going to wrap up pretty soon, but the last question I want to ask you is, when the coronavirus goes away, what would you like to stay with us, even when it's gone?
So I'm hoping that this lasting impact of this health crisis is going to be that more corporations recognize the value and importance of small, diverse businesses, and they support them more. And that's through contracts, right? That's really directing business to these small, diverse businesses. So I'm hoping that will be the case. I'm hoping that supplier diversity in some way will help drive that in the future. But my fear in the meantime, in the short term, is that we may lose a lot of these small businesses. Mm-hmm. That's my fear. That's what I think about every day when I have conversations with our certified businesses is, how can we support you in this really challenging time to ensure that you're around for the long term, because we need you. We need your expertise. We need your innovation. We need your capabilities. We need your, ability to pivot and to provide, outstanding product and service to our stakeholders. So that's my hope. And we're doing everything that we can each day to support our businesses that are certified with Disability In. And of course, our partner organizations like WeBank and NGLCC and NMSDC and Novoba and all of our corporate partner alliances.
Awesome. Yeah, we saw, Heather shared with me an infographic actually about how people are focusing more on small business owners. But interestingly, in all of our, we've done about a dozen interviews, and you're the only one who mentioned that as something they want to stay. So that's a really good one. That's obviously one we can get behind. We surveyed our suppliers and our corporate partners a while ago, maybe a couple months ago, when we were kind of in the throes of all of this. And it was interesting, we asked our corporate partners, who do you think is riskier doing business with, a large company or a small, diverse company? And there was a large amount of them that answered a small, diverse company is riskier. So we really have to change that mindset, right? Around small, diverse businesses and their capabilities, and demonstrate that they can step up. I mean, think about it. When we went through the PPE challenge early on, everyone was purchasing their products from China, and that faucet just turned off, right? Mm-hmm. So we had to come up with an alternative solution to that supply chain. And it was really the small, diverse businesses that stepped up to do that. So I'm hoping that corporations look back and say, they helped us through this challenge, and we need to continue to support them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Philip, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll definitely put your information. How do people find Disability In? Just the website?
Absolutely. disabilityin.org.
Okay. We'll send everybody there. And until then, we'll see you next time on Business Unusual. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.